Welcome to another episode of the Reboot Chronicles, a no-holds-barred forum with global leaders, authors, entrepreneurs, and CEOs about how organizations stay focused on growth and innovation in unprecedented times. I'm your host, Dean DeVias, coming to you live from Reviv's North American headquarters in Chicago, and we would like to thank you for joining us from around the globe today. I'd like to welcome serial entrepreneur who has created billions in value, Raj Koneru, to the Reboot Chronicles. He is the CEO of Kore.ai, a conversational AI platform that large enterprises use to talk with, you, their customers. Part of a projected $400 billion Gen AI market, Kore is one of the fastest growing companies in the sector, with chatbots and co-pilots deployed with hundreds of partners and thousands of corporations who are automating conversations and streamlining customer and employee experiences. Raj, it's great to see you.
Hey, Dean, nice to see you as well.
So many things to talk about with you. Our audience loves to understand what is it about AI that I should be doing as a career move. But I'd love just to hear a little bit about the story. I'm really curious as a serial CEO myself. Is like, why did you start Kore really? And did you know what you were doing, or did you kind of do a couple pivots like most of us, when we talk honestly, have done as well?
Yeah, we did do a pivot. I mean, we started Core AI 10 years ago. So prior to that, I built a company that provided a mobile platform for enterprises to build mobile apps. So I saw how enterprises adopted mobile to engage, their customers, to be able to engage
Right.
with them through a mobile app. At the very beginning, we started Core AI as an enterprise messaging platform where, much like a Slack or
Yeah.
much like, a Skype or whatever, but with more controls that the enterprise could use. But within that platform, we had one feature where a user could communicate with a bot, and be able to pull up information either from Salesforce or Jira or anywhere else and be able to take some actions. So when we went to enterprises at that time, even Slack was not a craze at that point just yet. People said to us, the large enterprises at least said to us, hey, we are happy with, Skype for Business or Jabber or whatever they were
Somewhat happy
using.
with it anyway. Yeah.
And yeah, and they didn't feel the need for an enterprise messaging platform. And I'm talking about even prior to, people getting crazy about Slack
Yep.
at the time. So when we heard them, they said, look, but that one piece where a user can communicate with a machine to pull up information in natural language, that piece is interesting. We'd like to see more of that.
Good feedback.
So we went back to the drawing board, and that was the pivot we made, which is that, generally speaking, all of us use applications, and applications have UI. But what if there is no UI? And if the user can say in natural language what they're looking for or what they want to do, either pull up some information or do a transaction, can we build something like that? And that was the birth of our idea around
I
conversational AI.
like that mainly because I love when people kind of listen to customers and maybe don't admit they're wrong, but find that little kernel of something. And then we've done this in so many companies over the years. And some entrepreneurs haven't. They haven't identified that, or they just stay the road. The other thing I love about what you did is you made this kind of, in a sense, for the rest of us, it's more like out of the box, low code, no code. Does that really work in large enterprises without getting too geeky here?
Yeah, I mean it does. I mean, I think I think low code, no code started out in the UI application
Right.
space. In the natural language conversational AI space, you don't deal with UI widgets, right? You deal with language. What did the user say? Does my bot understand what the user said? And can it take an action, either produce an answer or do a transaction? So the steps to build something like that are
Yeah.
different than building an application. And a lot of those steps don't need code. It's training the model, which you do typically without having to write code. Now that APIs are generally available both for SaaS applications for sure, and also most enterprises have some kind of middleware through which they expose APIs to their backend
Hmm.
data. You could you could build a backend integration without writing any code. So absolutely, it can be done without writing code. But here's the thing: the end creator of that bot needs to understand, language computing, and that was the challenge that we had. So most people who went to school to learn computer science and then worked in the industry for like 10, 20, 30 years always were used to, UI computing
All right.
or API type of computing. They were not used to interpreting language. So how to train a model to understand what the user said in context and how to engage with the user back and forth to accomplish their objective, that was a change in mindset that the developer of the bot had to undergo, and that took time. So it took us a good 4 or 5 years to get traction in the space because conversational AI was not really
No, not at
understood
all. Right.
by IT departments. Now it's all the craze with Gen AI and
It's all
everything
the rage.
else.
We'll get into that in a second. I've got some pet peeves, but exactly. I don't know if everyone just appreciated what you just said because you're also doing that in dozens of countries, over 100 actually, in dozens of languages and dialects and contexts and just it's overwhelming the computational power that used to be needed. I don't know about now, and to pull that down into a drag and drop thing that even Dean here could potentially set up in an afternoon is yeah, it sounds like it's pretty powerful technology. My pet peeve is I still, years later, just really frustrated with speech recognition. It just irritates me, and I know it's only one piece of it, but I think I'm a pretty clear speaker. I'm not too bad, but I always have issues retyping what my Android or Apple device thinks I said, and it's just how are you fixing that? Because I keep my software updated and everything, and the relationship I have with my phone is sometimes not great.
See, speech recognition has improved significantly thanks to the cloud computing power, thanks to machine learning being available to build
By the way,
those
that's a good point.
engines.
I'll put a comma on mine that, and then I'm on other platforms. I don't know what. Let's just say Amazon, where I might use their speech. I'll jump on another one, and it grabs me exactly. But just some of the hardware based ones are frustrating still.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think speech recognition at the edge is as efficient as the speech models that are available from Google and Microsoft and Amazon
Okay.
and a bunch of other companies like DeepGram and NVIDIA on the cloud. So it's improved substantially. There are still challenges. For example, speech recognition, none of them do a good job of accurately understanding alphanumeric
No.
input. So if you said my order number is A1Z7, 2, most probably it'll get it wrong. So your airline confirmation
Yep.
codes are always going to be a problem, basically. But for the most part, we're seeing 95 to 99% accuracy in the conversion of speech to accurate text in our use cases. So it is becoming, front and center right now for enterprises to deploy in the use cases where they want to automate voice. And now in the conversational AI space, which started out with digital chatbots on websites and mobile, increasingly the larger deals and the more value for the enterprise is automating those voice calls coming into the contact center, which requires speech recognition. So speech recognition accuracy going up has really propelled the world forward in adopting
So the
conversational AI.
days of the I don't know, just frustrated consumers yelling at their phone when they're not getting it, or hopefully going away as you convert to more 80% versus 20% automation. I mean, no one loves it on the consumer side, but then occasionally you get one that works. And you're like, hey, this is actually pretty good. I didn't have to sit there and wait.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it, right? Speech recognition is just one
Yeah.
piece of it. The bulk of it is understanding, natural language understanding, you know, and that has improved significantly with the evolution of the large language models. They do a great job in terms of understanding. If you restrict them to only be within a certain scope, basically. And the third one is, the design of the bot itself to be able to, naturally, in a free flow, converse with you, much like a human would. For example, I'll give you an example. If I call my bank and I talk to an
Yep.
agent, I'll do some small talk and then I'll say something like, hey, I went to Spain last year on vacation. I think I spent too much money. Tell me how I spent my money. You know, that's very natural for me to talk to a human like that. But can a bot understand that and be able to then respond appropriately? A lot of that depends on the design of that bot. A lot of that depends on the capability of the underlying platform to be able to discern your intent, extract out the data you just gave me, and respond. So that's where we come in with a platform which enables enterprises to build those experiences.
Yeah, that's a big differentiator, and that's what got you on the Gartner Magic Quadrant. Those of you that don't know, it's an annual survey that rates companies as leaders or laggards and other fun terms. And I think you guys have been there a couple of years in a row. But that also means, this market is hot. People are coming after it. You have no shortage of competitors. But what about the big dogs of tech coming into this and coming after you? How do you continue to kind of crush it? You're one of the fastest growing ones out there right now. So competitive. How do you approach
Well,
competitiveness, growth, and innovation? That's where we're going here.
when you look at the hyperscalers, they're focused at the bottom of the
Mm.
stack. At the very bottom is your cloud infrastructure. And the very next layer above that now is the large language models. Because that's the pipe, right? They want to take their tax every time you say something or every time you use it. That's how the cloud is built. Now, the
I
next
think that
layer of the
that business model
cloud
is
is
going to
every
come and
time.
go. There's too many people taking care of taking advantage of
Yeah,
the excitement of that layer right now. Yep.
yeah. So the layer above that is where enterprises need help. They need a platform to be able to, create what they want to create as a use case that generates value for them. And that platform needs to have all of the capabilities to use the underlying models to enable building of these bots in a no code manner, to enable creating this natural flow of a conversation, to enable the full SDLC taking care of scalability, security, and all that, basically. And that's what we provide. So, from a competition standpoint, we're in the business of enabling enterprises to take advantage of the innovation at the bottom layer, by using our platform for their use cases. So from a competition standpoint, we do compete sometimes with the hyperscalers, but less so than the pure play providers in our
Yeah, it seems
space.
like the
And
pure
we
play guys are all mid caps, and most doing quite well. So no shortage. I mean, I love competition; keeps you on your toes. And but where do you see it going?
well, I think look, the market is a very large market. Anytime there's a very large market, Gartner said that right now there's about 60 billion plus being spent on conversational AI, and that's going to grow to 370 billion by 2032. So
Estimates
anytime you have,
everywhere from 300 to 400 billion. That's just in that
yeah,
sector. Yep.
so anytime you have such a large market, you're going to have a lot of competition. Our goal is to be in the top three, and we are the number one according to Gartner's Magic Quadrant in the space right now. And the way we stay number one and or in the top three is two things. One, heavy investment in R&D. So we have about 1,000 employees. More than half of those employees are in my
Yep.
product team, basically. So we re-innovate and innovate in the platform and other products that come alongside the platform every year, essentially. And secondly, being able to truly understand enterprise requirements and making it easy for the enterprise to achieve their goals, basically. So those enterprise requirements are changing constantly. Up until now, a chatbot could answer questions, FAQs. Now the enterprises just want to ingest documents into the bot and have the bot automatically figure out the answers. And we added that capability this year called RAG, which a number of people are adding as well. But we added it in such a way that we make it easy for the enterprise to be able to build that bot by ingesting documents, or we crawl their websites and be able to automatically answer questions. So that innovation cycle is at a heightened level this year and last year. as compared to, let's say, a few years ago, just because of the large language models being available, both the commercial ones and the open source
So now we're
ones. So the way to compete is, in my opinion, I tell
yeah.
my team, innovate or die,
And when you look at
basically.
that, one of the things I teach is the my BBB model: build, buy, and borrow. So you know, with 500 people focused on R&D and the product management groups and all that, go to market is probably the rest. The How do you think about, what you guys build in house capabilities, what you can actually acquire and buy, and what you can actually partner with on the borrow side in terms of other people doing things in and around your sector that you can plug in, so to speak.
I mean, I think it goes to the DNA of a company at our stage. I mean, we're a mid to late stage company, and our DNA is build
Yep.
by default
No,
as
that's why I
opposed
asked.
to
You're a
buy.
successful builder. Yep. But when you look out,
Yeah. On the partner side, we do partner. I mean, we
that's
integrate
mostly
with,
go-to-market partners,
uh,
right? Versus embedded.
no, it's both technology partnerships
Ah,
and go to
fair.
market.
Sure.
So we integrate with all the CCaaS providers like Genesys, Avaya, Cisco, NICE, Five9. We integrate with the speech recognition providers like Google, Microsoft, DeepGram, NVIDIA, so on and so forth. So there are complementary technologies that need to be part of the
Right.
solution. So where we have to integrate, we integrate. And with some of them, we have go to market relationships as well. But the core of Kore.ai, is all about how do we provide the platform and the solutions to make the realization of that use case, easy and fast for an enterprise to deploy at scale. And the scale is important because we deal with some of the largest, banks and health insurance companies and people like that. One large bank today processes 250 million calls a year
Yeah.
through
Scale,
us,
security,
basically.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is the focus. And I think going forward, we're going to have two types of competitors. We'll have the pure play competitors that we've always had. We may see some competition coming from the hyperscalers with the large
Yep.
language models. But I think their focus is more, how do I provide what I need to provide to get more consumption of my large language model, as opposed to providing, what an enterprise really needs, essentially. And that focus on the enterprise, listening to them, understanding what their needs are, is what we do really well.
So when you switch the model, let's look at the other side of this. People, you talk like I do to a lot of CEOs, a lot of corporate leaders, a lot of people who are implementing this stuff. But there's just this craze about AI, as in the second half of this decade. That's I don't know if it's unprecedented, but it seems to be more systemic than other types of technologies. It's definitely the cocktail party talk too. So, what's your advice on leaders in terms of their personal focus, attention, and maybe capability, and coming up to speed in AI? What should they be doing to better understand? Um, Not just what to do with it, but a little bit backing up the bus, a little bit more about it as well. For instance, a couple of things that you've said so far, I think you might have lost a couple of people because they're just not, they're not there. And the beauty of any great technology is you don't need to be there. You need to know how it's going to impact your business and change. But how do leaders basically prepare to be better equipped to make these decisions?
Well, first, by understanding what AI is, right? I mean, it's a hyped up space. There's ChatGPT out there in the consumer world, and consumers are using it the way they use it. And ChatGPT, I mean, GPT-4 and GPT 3.5 are trained on world knowledge, basically. So, it can generate an email for you, it can summarize a document for you, it can do all these things. I think an enterprise leader needs to first think about, what is it I want to use this technology for? What are my use cases? And how can this affect it? Do I want it to understand unstructured content? Do I want it to summarize something for me? Do I want it to generate something for me? So those are the simple capabilities of both Gen AI and conversational AI that first the enterprise leaders need to grasp, and then apply that technology to a use case and see, is there real value?
Yeah.
You know, am I saving anything, or am I, producing something which is of value to the enterprise?
Yeah. Or
I think today enterprises are not there yet. I think they're still struggling to figure out where to use the technology, although there's a lot of excitement about it.
yeah, what I tell them is like anything, you're there as the chief executive or someone else in the corporation. Like you're there to figure out how to generate value for your shareholders, back up the bus. What is next? What's coming next? What markets you want? Everything you want to do. How can you do that better? How do you create new products and services and ventures and growth? It's like, okay, then how do I apply technology to make us better, either on the efficiency side or the growth side? So I tell them like it's the same questions that you've always had, but think about maybe you've got a secret weapon in your IT group that you never had before. It was always like, whatever, they'll figure it out. A lot of coding, it'll get done in a year from now. And then kind of, does it make sense to start with that? Start with some goals and then back up the bus and find out how can AI help us do these three things versus understanding the technology. And so it's almost like some people in the corporation need to start on one side and the other ones need to just keep on the growth side. And how do you bring those together? I mean, do you guys add value there too from the qualitative conversational point of view, not just, schlepping products and
I mean, look, based on our understanding of the technology, we've identified about 5 areas where the low hanging fruit exists. The first most important area is customer service or customer experience automation. That's the low hanging fruit. Customers call you, customers email you, customers come on chat with you. You have to cater to your
and that in
customers.
that in itself
Almost
is
every
a
company.
massive multi-billion-dollar market, just automate.
That is the largest market for
Okay,
generative AI, in my
gotcha.
opinion. The second is your employees. They have needs. They have questions, they need education, they need knowledge, they have to search for things all the time. How do you make them more efficient? So the employee experience. The third is your service agents, whether they're field service people or people sitting in your contact center. You have, in some cases, tens of thousands of them. In many cases, thousands of them. And they're never going to always be fully educated. Give them a bot to help them be more efficient. So the agent experience, basically. And lastly, I mean, one of the last items is search experience. All of us search for things all day long, every day of the year, essentially. With generative AI and conversational AI, the search experience is going to completely transform. And I'm not talking about
No.
Google search or something like that. I'm talking about enterprise search. Enterprises providing a search capability to their employees and to their customers. And the new thing that's now evolving very clearly, and I believe it's going to be a massive opportunity, is the application experience. So all the applications that we use, web applications, mobile applications, are all going to require a co-pilot, so that you don't have to click through the menus and go from screen to screen to screen. You have a co-pilot, much like how Microsoft launched co-pilots into their products. Almost every application is going to require a co-pilot, and that's a use case that adds value as well. So when you look at that spectrum, I think depending on the organization, while you may have your business objectives in producing products and services and satisfying your customers, these use cases enable you to achieve those goals. And these use cases can be powered by AI in general.
Yeah, and the last one you gave, I think some of these companies have, again, all the rage, but it's have jumped in way too soon with these co-piloty types of things. They're just, I challenge you to go on LinkedIn and change your opening statement. And it basically has already scoured your profile and it takes a sentence and turns it into 4 words. It's just, so the context is not quite there yet. And so maybe we've jumped the gun a little bit. And maybe what really is needed is what you're doing, which is just massive behind the scenes understanding and integration. Like if you take a call center, Teletext CEO is going to be on after you. And so, I assume it's getting rid of a lot of operators out there. Is it making customers happier? Is probably a better question.
Well, we measure CSAT, right? I mean, with a bot as well. So if you came in and you called, let's say,
Yeah.
your bank, and all
Do people still
and
do that?
to the today they do, yeah. I mean, 250 million
Kidding.
calls come into this bank. That is, I was mentioning. So the experience is awful, right? It's still press one, press two, or say this and say that, and I may
Exactly.
understand you. If if I can be if I can say naturally what I wanted, and it can respond immediately, and I don't have to wait on hold or repeat myself or do any of that, and I get what I want and I move on. That can be measured both in terms of CSAT, basically, and savings in general, basically. So I think the world is going to move towards using more of that automation and being satisfied with it. It's not there
No.
yet. Some enterprises are doing a better job than others. I mean, we have large customers like eBay and Cigna and Citibank and others who are deploying this at scale, and we measure everything: what's working, what's not working, tweak it, get it to a better state. At the end of the day, to not just save money, but to improve their customer
Yeah, and there's a
satisfaction score.
learning curve on the consumer or customer side, even B2B customers, because we've all learned trigger words on how to get these systems to respond. We have to let go of the trigger
Yeah.
words and try to have a conversation. But one last thing I just want to touch on before maybe a personal story is just I think this is a ripe M&A market in the second half of this decade here. And we had the Juniper CEO on. He's a friend of the program. They, combined with HPE, and their CEO is going to be on soon. But a lot of that had to do with AI. I mean, Juniper used AI to transform itself, so they're not just a hardware company anymore. But what do you see the impact of M&A having on just the general sector of tech and where we're going over the next 5 years?
I think in the tech space, in the
Hmm.
software space specifically, that I think there's going to be massive M&A over the next 5 years. Um, I mean, obviously, last year was a dull year for IPOs and M&A. Last couple of years, I should say. But I think that's going to come back in a big way this year, starting this year, and maybe in the next few years. And the reason for that is simple: the stack is changing. The capabilities that an enterprise needs, cannot is not available just with one provider. It's dispersed. So when those capabilities are dispersed, there's a need for integration, and there's a lot of money and time wasted in
A
that
lot of time.
integration. So naturally, providers are going to try to combine, to be able to provide a complete solution. So AI is leading that, obviously, and very specifically, if you leave alone ChatGPT and Bard and the Bing chat piece of it, which is all consumer focused, enterprise is going to come into this space using AI in a big, big, big way, basically. And to satisfy enterprise, hunger for AI, there's a plethora of providers, large and small, that will have to combine, to be more efficient for the enterprise,
Right.
basically. And therefore, I think there's going to be a lot of M&A in the next, 3 to
Agree.
5
Yeah.
years.
So, I want to really thank you for joining us today, Raj. And you're like myself. You're a serial CEO. You've done a lot of things, had a lot of challenges. Any personal story you want to share to kind of give us a little window and advice?
Well, if you take this company, it's been 10 years that we've been in this company. You don't see
No,
many
that's
companies,
a lifetime in tech.
at this
Yes.
stage. So this has been the most difficult company for me to build. I mean, I built five of them
Yep.
before this, and each one of them got traction very early within the first year or second year. This took like about 4 or 5 years to get
So was that
traction,
your biggest?
and
Was the
that's
biggest
because
challenge?
that was the biggest challenge because we were way ahead of the market. We had to wait for the market to happen for our technology, and it's gut wrenching. When you have great technology, but the market is not ready to buy it, and the market ready is not ready to use it, essentially. So for me, that was the biggest challenge: to continue to believe, to continue to stay in, to believe that conversational AI will ultimately be the way that humans will communicate with machines, basically. And I didn't raise any VC money. basically in the beginning. I put my own money into this for the first almost 7 years. So I'm what you would typically call Series A, B, and part of C as well,
An
essentially. So when you put your
ABC
own
founders,
money,
we call them.
you have to wait for the market. That. So my advice to other founders and business builders is, listen to your customers, believe that you can build a product that can service your customers. But if the market is not ready, you have to wait it out. Don't give up too fast. I could have given up at least 3 times in the last 10 years, basically. But I didn't. And now we are a thriving company. We grew over 100% last year. We expect to grow over 100% this year. So, and we are almost profitable, basically. So I think if you believe in the space and you believe your customers, it'll ultimately, come your way.
I love it. Great advice. Thanks for joining us, Raj. You've been listening to Raj Koneru, who is the CEO of the company that you all should check out, Kore.ai. This is Dean Tobias with the Reboot Chronicles. I want to thank you for joining us today. We'll see you soon.